Hello and welcome. I do not use algorithm dodging euphemisms, and I don't censor words in order to appease social media or to help create a safe space. With that said, let's get on with the video. How does a trademark dispute by a guy who used to do amateur pornography become a lawsuit filed against the titular head of an indie comic movement over lolicon? I'll tell you about it. He sued me too.
It's a legal thing, and it's not even my real name. Oh, cease and desist. Ooh, Vicky, you're mentioned. I can already see that.
For the last 4 years, I have been streaming with Dean Asif, whose channel is DA Talks. We do a mostly weekly live stream that covers the goings-on in a small corner of indie comics called Comicsgate. We talk about the infighting, late crowd funds, sexual blackmail. Recently, we outed a registered sex offender in the community. Everything one could possibly expect from a fandom dedicated to comic books. In March of 2021, Dean uploaded a video to his YouTube channel about a pair of comic writers, Preston Poulter and his friend John Lamont.
That member is John T. Lamont. John and Preston met when they were both living in Los Angeles. Lamont runs a 3D production company known as Optical Illusion Studios. John first appeared on Preston's channel with a script for an adult comic book called Blood Feud. John wrote Blood Feud and has been given advice from Preston on how to market it. The comic itself is, in my opinion, fucking disgusting. It appears to be nothing more than lolly smut mixed with vampires. This isn't the only lolly comic John Lamont has produced. His latest comic features this character named Lolita. Very subtle. After doing some digging with my co-host, we stumbled upon some disturbing findings from John, which we will discuss in a follow-up stream, which will be announced later in the week.
John Lamont is a self-professed lolicon who at that time was working on a comic book entitled The Demonatrix. Rough plot. 17-year-old girl is possessed by a 20,000-year-old demon named Lolita, because of course she is. Emmy, now possessed by Lolita, murders her father and best friend after discovering them doing things grown men shouldn't be doing with minors. The rest of the book is a gore fest of drugs, sex, and violence, all involving the underage female protagonist. After Dean's video was released, Poulter announced his plans to publish John Lamont's book under Poulter's Comicsgate trademark, a mark he had never owned.
Look, we're going to keep this going as long as we can. I've got a big announcement. The book you guys are freaking out about, The Demonatrix, is going to be an official Comicsgate trademark. I'm announcing that right here on the show, and I got another big announcement.
This was all occurring against the backdrop of a trademark lawsuit for the Comicsgate mark brought by Preston Poulter against Ethan Van Sciver. Poulter and Van Sciver had been at odds for over a year due to Van Sciver's refusal to promote Poulter on his YouTube channel.
Well, you know what? Here's the wonderful thing about that. Preston would have been on my show had he not been asking me in between Christmas and New Year's when I wasn't live streaming at all. He badgered me every single day between December 26th and like January 2nd. Am I going to be on your show? Help me, Obi-Wan Can Ethan. You're my only hope. You know, all these weird gay messages. And I wasn't live streaming. I was busy, you know, being with my family and playing video games and having a good holiday. If he had just waited like a fucking normal person, he might have ended up on the show and history could have been different. I'm kind of glad that it wasn't. I guess I'm kind of glad that things went the way that they went.
Yeah, I mean, knowing who he is now.
Yeah, there's just a lot of weirdos. There's just an awful lot of weirdos in indie comics. And, obviously Slick Jimmy was one of them. I remember seeing.
That friction became a full-blown blaze when amateur pornography of Preston Poulter was discovered by a member of the Comicsgate community, and Poulter blamed Van Sciver for his public humiliation. I have more detailed videos regarding the trademark dispute on my channel, but here are the basics up to April of 2021. Back in 2018, a Comicsgater named Antonio Malpica applied for the Comicsgate trademark. When it appeared as if the application would die due to lack of use, Preston Poulter applied for the same mark.
Oh, hi. You just caught me reading up on trademark law. Speaking of trademark law, let's talk about Comicsgate. Trademark law works. So, I have, as you probably aware, or if not, Bleeding Cool article. I can't put a link in the info card. It's a link in the description of the Bleeding Cool article. The federal government has recognized that I, Preston Poulter, DBA Pocket Jacks Comics, through my corporation Common Sense Press Incorporated, have been granted the trademark of Comicsgate in regards to comic books. I have also applied for a certification trademark, meaning I will be able to certify who gets to call their comic books Comicsgate, and those that I deem worthy will get this logo to put on their books, and that way you know it's certified Comicsgate. So there we go, folks. Comicsgate is under new management. That in order to challenge my claim, you have to have a claim. No, Preston, you don't own the trademark to Comicsgate because I do.
And that is what happened. Despite Poulter's claim of being, quote, granted the trademark, in actuality, all he had done was applied for it. Poulter's application was rejected. The United States Patent and Trademark Office awarded the mark to Malpica. Poulter started using the mark anyway, and in October of 2020 initiated cancellation proceedings with the USPTO's Trademark Trials and Appeals Board. In April of 2021, Malpica gave the mark to Van Sciver, and he was joined or brought into the cancellation proceedings, and he became the registered owner of the Comicsgate trademark. On April 25th, 2021, a few days after he was given ownership of the trademark, Van Sciver was in the chat of Deans and Mine livestream while we discussed this ruling by the USPTO. We invited him onto the stream to comment, and that decision took the three of us on a journey of lawsuits for libel and defamation. I'm not a lawyer, but I imagine it's going to cause, it's going to be a lengthy process and wasn't just as easy as Ethan filing for the trademark with the USTPO. Just my guess. The way all that shit works. And Preston is litigious as fuck. He admits it. He's proud of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to see Ethan get it. I mean, Jesus Christ. Once he decided to slap the Comicsgate TM on that Demonatrix lolly porn comic of Lamont.
That thing's fucking gross.
Just gross. I mean, I think, and I mean, Ethan's in the chat, he can correct me if I'm wrong, that, that may have been part of why when Romano said, hey, I got this lawyer here who's already filed this paperwork, are you finally willing to do it? That he may have said, yeah. Who wants what they've been building up for 3 years to be suddenly attached to that grossness?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's a pretty big dick move, but I'm pretty sure that's why Preston did it, was to like tie CG in with
well, he did it because he was pissed at us.
Well, yeah, that's true.
I am under the impression that it's going to be pretty much a walk in the park, and not only that, what Preston did was actually illegal. It's Vicky, it's literally fraud. You're going to love this. He does not have a claim to the term Comicsgate, and so what he did was fraudulent, and I could sue him for it if I wanted to. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I understand it takes 3 months for the trademark to officially become mine, but from what I understand, it's a layup. It's basically a layup, and this attorney's really, really good. His opinion, he wrote a 10-page opinion on why it's mine.
I did
Uh,
read that.
yeah, what did you think of it?
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. It was very detailed. I mean, geez, I can't
I didn't
imagine
read it. Yeah,
how much like a
I can't.
research that Robert did to hand over to that attorney for him to write that must have been insane.
Right.
Um,
But
but yeah,
all of this seems like a weird gay trap anyway. It's like, well, I can trick Ethan into claiming Comicsgate, and then I can say Ethan thinks he owns Comicsgate. I get it. This isn't 2017 anymore. It's not 2018. It's pretty stupid. I've got the word Comicsgate on my baseball cap. I intend to continue to put Comicsgate on merchandise as I want, as I wish. I don't think anybody's going to be attitudinal about it. I just don't think anybody is going to get very upset and think that I'm, co-opting a movement. All of those accusations have already been made and put into play, and they amounted to nothing. So I don't want Preston to make child pornography and put Comicsgate on the label. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
that was a pretty fucking gross move.
Especially
yeah,
right now, at this point, one of his pals, Slick Jimmy, outed as an actual, child pornographer, pedophile. It's like this now is not a good time for that bullshit. So yeah,
What did
let's.
you well, that's actually interesting you bring that up. What did you think, if you knew at all, about him trying to push Slick Jimmy off on you and Comicsgate?
Oh well, it's typical, I Slick Jimmy of Lethal, Little Girl Lethal, I think appeared on one of my live streams or two of my live streams in 2018, when basically my live stream was an open door to anyone who had a small press comic that they wanted funded. We had
Well, I mean
like,
anybody but Preston.
yeah, present. Well, you know what?
Preston Poulter of Pocket Jacks Comics and John Lamont of Optical Illusion Studios filed a complaint in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Texas on May 21, 2021, against Dean Asif, Ethan Van Sciver, and me, Victoria Kundert. We were being sued to the tune of nearly $750,000 for defamation, slander per se, and something called cyber libel. Dean and I were being sued for calling John Lamont a pedophile, and Ethan was being sued for calling Preston Poulter a child pornographer. Dean did say that in his opinion, based upon John Lamont's lolicon-oriented DeviantArt account, a Mastodon account that followed an account with posts containing hashtags like nude and teen, and art from his comics, that John Lamont was a non-offending pedophile.
So then John says psst, don't tell anyone, especially Dean, but I have a whole favorites group on my DeviantArt page. I already knew because I did my research before talking about this guy's fucking fetish.
Yeah, we already saw all that.
Because I wanted to make sure that I don't falsely call this guy a fucking lolly fucking comic creator. But now even worse, I will not worse, but factual. Now even it's worse. The situation is worse, but it's factual pedophile. So yeah, like I already knew about this. And like once again, like now it's naked lollies, right? And the cope of these people in this Discord. So we have hashtag selfies, hashtag amateur, hashtag NSFW, hashtag cell phone. That's a hashtag that people do. And then we have hashtag teen, girl, nude. Now,
I was being sued for calling John Lamont a pedophile, despite my not being quoted as doing so in the complaint. Ethan stated that he planned on protecting his trademark and wouldn't allow it to be used on child porn by the likes of Preston Poulter. I'll skip the legal details because one lawsuit per video is enough. The case jacket is available online, and I'll leave the case number in the description if you're interested. But the end result of that federal civil suit was Ethan Van Sciver was the first to be dismissed for jurisdiction. I was the second. Unfortunately for Dean, he ended up in a courtroom in Texas in 2023. Neither Poulter nor John Lamont received monetary damages. Instead, they had to settle for an apology for hurting their feelings from Dean and the takedown of 2 YouTube videos from his DA Talks channel. Mr. Asaf is going to read his statement into the record.
okay, in exchange, obviously, for the statement, plaintiffs agreed to dismiss their claims against him. Okay, and then everybody walks away paying their own expenses?
Yes, Your Honor.
That's correct. Okay. Yes. Go ahead. And here's the statement, guys. The statement, which is me caving in and giving in, on several occasions in 2021, I called John Lamont a pedophile and stated he should be shot. I also questioned why Preston Poulter was publishing John Lamont's art, which I considered child pornography. I admit these statements were careless. I realized that my statements caused Lamont and Poulter pain. I'm sorry. I will take down my videos containing those statements.
While the case in Texas against Dean was still going on and the trademark cancellation was still winding its way through the USPTO's Trademark Trials and Appeals Board, a path that included a re-examination of Van Sciver's trademark initiated by Preston Poulter, a re-examination that was decided in Van Sciver's favor. Preston Poulter and John Lamont filed yet another civil complaint against Ethan Van Sciver in New Jersey Superior Court for compensatory and punitive damages in amount to be determined. Once again, according to Preston Poulter, he was defamed by Van Sciver, claiming Van Sciver accused him of being a child pornographer. And, by extension, even though Van Sciver probably still doesn't know who John Lamont is, Van Sciver was calling John Lamont a pedophile. In New Jersey, defamation requires 1. A false statement of fact. 2. That false statement must be made to a third party. 3. It hurts your reputation or causes people to want nothing to do with you. And 4. Negligence or malice, depending on whether someone's a public figure or not. There is a standard for falsity, which is whether something is true or not, and that's content, verifiability, and context. I've shown you the content of Van Sciver's remarks. That verifiability comes down to whether or not what Ethan said was an opinion, and if a reasonable listener took his statement as fact. Did anyone watching the live stream think Ethan was referring to actual child pornography, or to John Lamont's 3D rendered illustrated comic book? During Dean's trial in Texas, Poulter and John Lamont never offered any witness who watched the stream and believed John Lamont was a pedophile. From the publicly available evidence in this case, Poulter still doesn't seem to appear to have any witness who watched the stream believed that Preston Poulter was engaged in illegal child pornography and refused to do business with him because of that. Part of Poulter's argument is that lolicon cannot be called child pornography. Lolicon is animated pictures of small children engaged in sexual acts. It's named for the Nabokov novel Lolita, which is about a man's sexual obsession with a 12-year-old girl. A provision of the Child Pornography Prevention Act back in 1996, signed into law by Bill Clinton, made virtual child pornography illegal. That provision was struck down by the Supreme Court in Ashcroft versus Free Speech Coalition. In the opinion written by Justice Kennedy, it was pointed out that child pornography is speech, but the reason it is illegal is because of the horrific, untold damage done to real children by the people engaged in the illegal acts needed to produce it. Virtual child porn is not the product of actual child sexual abuse and falls under protected speech. The Supreme Court did not remove our ability to have an opinion on whether or not animated child pornography is pornographic. So the question is, was Ethan expressing an opinion based on Poulter publishing John Lamont's book with this cover, which was shown moments before Ethan made his supposedly defamatory remarks, a cover with art of little girls in a state of undress, commissioned by John Lamont, that contained Preston Poulter's use of Van Sciver's Comicsgate trademark? In a reply to Van Sciver's motion for summary judgment, Poulter's attorney states, "Here, Van Sciver accused Lamont and Poulter of making and distributing child pornography in the form of a comic book. Furthermore, even if it had been published, Van Sciver would easily have learned that comic books cannot, as a matter of law, be child pornography." To me, Van Sciver's lawyer is arguing that Ethan is very well aware of the distinction. Poulter's lawyer made Van Sciver's point for him. If Ethan Van Sciver is accusing Preston Poulter and John Lamont of making animated child pornography, then he's not accusing them of making actual child porn. Poulter is also suing for defamation per se, meaning that what Van Sciver said was so egregious and damaging that damages are just presumed. What qualifies for defamation per se? Falsely stating someone committed a crime, saying someone has a loathsome disease, accusing someone of sexual misconduct. But once again, Poulter has to get past whether or not Ethan was stating an opinion or fact and how ordinary people would take it. The other counts are simply variations of the same theme: business slander, slander and libel with actual malice, negligent slander and libel, false light, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. According to Poulter's and John Lamont's complaint, quote, Van Sciver's knowingly false accusations regarding plaintiffs producing being associated with material that Van Sciver termed child pornography were the direct and proximate cause of plaintiff Poulter's emotional distress, end quote. This is the basis for Poulter's claim of intentional infliction of emotional distress. The problem with this argument is the timeline of events. Preston Poulter very much knew about the contents of John Lamont's Demonatrix. John Lamont introduced the script in October of 2020 on Preston Poulter's weekly live stream, where it became a regular read.
All right, John, let's see. We got the Demonatrix.
Yes.
Tell us about the Demonatrix. So last time, what happened? I remember she was she had a certain attitude about her. Refresh our memory. What happened last time?
Previously on the Demonatrix, Emmy Riley, upon discovering her evangelical father's affair with her 16-year-old best friend,
no, he did. Oh, wait, that's right. I remember. Yeah, the blowjob out of nowhere. Yeah.
After they had sex only a few pages before.
Right. The very plot convenient blowjob. That's all I'm saying. Right.
Well, I needed things to happen as quickly as possible.
You needed it to happen right there. Therefore,
she decided to get back at him by reading old lore books on summoning demons and while on a church youth camping trip, she stumbles upon them in the act.
Why did the geologist in Prometheus get lost in the spaceship when he had GPS tracking? Because the plot demanded it.
Yes.
Anyway.
She gets around the corner, and mild amusement turns to rage.
Right. When she sees Jasmine on her knees.
Yes.
Emmy grabs her book, storms around the corner, finding Jasmine giving oral sex to Bruce. He spots her first. Preston, you're Emmy.
Okay. All right.
So I guess, Larry, you can be Bruce and...
Sure.
All right. Yeah. What the fuck?
Bruce abruptly pushes Jasmine away, pulling up his pants.
Emmy, honey, this isn't what it looks like.
Emmy throws the book at Bruce, hitting him on the head. It falls to the ground, capturing his attention. And then one of you guys can do Jasmine.
I'm Emmy.
So, Bruce, Larry, do Jasmine.
Emmy, let me explain. Your father and I love each other. God had our lives cross.
You're 16.
Emmy's rage flares. She slugs Jasmine, closed fist, breaking her nose and dropping her to the ground. Bruce picks up the book.
What is this, witchcraft? You would commit an abomination against God and risk damning your soul to hell?
God should be capitalized. I'd rather spend an eternity in hell than one moment in heaven with you.
Emmy outstretches her arm.
Ortum.
The script was not only read aloud by the participants, critique and suggestions were given to John Lamont. John Lamont posted promotional tweets in Poulter's Discord. Dean uploaded his first video about John Lamont on February 25th, 2021. We did a follow-up live stream on February 28th. Poulter responded with his own video on March 5th, where he announced that he would publish John Lamont's Demonatrix and that John Lamont, and by extension Poulter, were moving up the campaign to kind of coincide with all of this attention.
Hello, everybody. This is Preston Poulter here with Pocket Jacks Comics. It has been an action-packed week. Look, we're going to keep this going as long as we can. I've got a big announcement. The book you guys are freaking out about, The Demonatrix, is going to be an official Comicsgate trademark. I'm announcing that right here on the show, and I got another big announcement. John's thrilled, by the way. He's like, wow. But people have asked, is John all right? And yeah, he's doing fine. He is very excited about all the attention that the campaign is getting. He's moving up the campaign to kind of coincide with all this attention. I'm going to see if I can get it going. And Danny was like, if you can make that an official Comicsgate book, I will back it. And you know what that means, folks? That means we are getting SJWs to buy Comicsgate brand books. If Demonatrix is normalizing anything, it's normalizing Comicsgate. You're welcome. That's my gift to you in appreciation for all this effort that you're putting in to me. I think this is our wonderful partnership, and I'm really glad to be a part of it. There's a lot of pearl clutching at a cancel party. It is the fundamental activity that really keeps that energy going. And then Sunday, Pièce de Resistance. Sunday, they unveiled the big one. I'm just going to let them hear for it. All right. There's been some quibbling. There's what you're going to hear are specific allegations, strangely enough, that John Lamont is a pedophile. I did not see this one coming. That was a surprise.
The failed 24-hour Kickstarter for the book was canceled well over a month prior to Ethan's appearance on our live stream. Ethan Van Sciver is not responsible for Preston Poulter injecting himself into the production of or the drama surrounding John Lamont's comic. Compensatory damages, or in other words, actual monetary damage loss, that Poulter and John Lamont claim to have suffered are, in the words of their attorney in Texas, the weakest part of their case. We can see when we get to them. We think they're clearly about our guys. Now there's two...
And you have some proof on damages?
Your Honor, you see where I was going. I was going to say there's two kinds of complicated issues. One of them is whether they're private individuals or public figures. We think they're private individuals, clearly under the definition of the law. We'll get into that more later. Now, damages, I'll be frank with you, Judge.
This was the best part.
That is the weakest part of our case. We got evidence for it. We've got, the fact that they have lost business relationships because all this stuff is out there and people don't know who to side with. They've had to take off time to deal with this stuff. And, when this case started, I'll be honest with you, Judge. When this case started, we thought the damages were going to be a lot higher. And as things happened, they weren't as high as we thought they were going to be. Poulter has continued to have a table at numerous conventions per year, yet he claims that he has to hire security to attend conventions because of fears for his safety. He claims that he requires weekly mental health care. John Lamont declared that he has suffered from weight gain and anxiety, and neither of them produced any invoices for these services during the Texas lawsuit. Lamont's Kickstarter for Demonatrix was canceled and was already available on Drive-Thru Comics weeks before Ethan's remarks. Lamont has gone on to have 6 successfully funded campaigns, each earning more than the last, and Poulter also claims to have lost revenue on Kickstarter, but had his highest grossing Kickstarter campaign in the months following his filing of the Texas lawsuit back in 2021. Ethan Van Sciver is countersuing Preston Poulter for malicious use of process, trademark counterfeiting, trademark infringement, and false designation of origin. If Poulter is found guilty of trademark counterfeiting, the damages are laid out in the law. Van Sciver could be awarded between $200,000 and $2 million plus attorney's fees. Van Sciver is also demanding the destruction of any comics Poulter has in his possession that have the trademark Poulter put on them. This saga that started on a live stream over 3 years ago when Ethan Van Sciver, Dean, and I were discussing Ethan becoming the registered owner of the Comicsgate trademark is almost over. After multiple extensions requested by the plaintiffs, a motion for summary judgment filed by the defendant, and what must have been a last-minute request to reschedule the trial, Preston Poulter versus Ethan Van Sciver is finally scheduled for October the 15th, 2024. John Lamont, the catalyst for this entire exercise, was dismissed from the lawsuit by the judge. But it was never about John Lamont.